Have you ever noticed some kind of leaders, they walk into a room and people just seem to lean in. They don't need to raise their voice and they don't need to demand or threaten. The people simply say yeah, and not out of fear, out of respect, out of trust, and out of reciprocity. And reciprocity, that may be the single most important leadership currency that there is. But then there's the other kind of leader, right? The one who's demanding, pushing, reminding, and it feels like every yes that they get is some version of, yeah, whatever. Here's the truth. Every yes you get starts long before you ever ask for it. It's the invisible force of influence, and it's called reciprocity. And if you don't understand it, you are going to spend your entire management career managing compliance instead of leading commitment. I'm Chris Hunsaker, and this is the Dealership War Room. Leadership fire, 7 minutes, built daily, fueled intentionally, and delivered relentlessly. And now let's dive in how to make sure that when you get that yes, it really means yes. Let's start with Victor. It's Friday, and he is pacing the sales tower hard. Numbers are down, energy's low, and he fires off a group text. If we don't sell 10 cars by the end of the day, no one's going home. And you can imagine how it landed on the sales floor, exactly like you'd expect. Avoidance, excuses, people mentally checking out. And Victor's thinking to himself, why don't these people just do their job? Here's the reason. Victor spent all week making emotional withdrawals from everybody's bank account, barking orders, micromanaging a deal, correcting people in public. And after he spent an entire week of making emotional withdrawals, now at the moment when he needs it most, he's trying to make a withdrawal from an empty bank account. Leadership runs on the exact same laws as all other human behavior, that people give back to what gives to them. Doesn't that make sense to you? So as a leader, when you create a climate of respect, appreciation, and support, people feel an internal pull to give back to that energy. That's what drives them. And so now you're not having to push anymore. You just lead. Dr. Robert Cialdini calls reciprocity one of the 6 pillars of influence. It's that natural inclination in human beings to return favors, to match tone, and to repay kindness. In the dealership world, it means that you give understanding before correction, that you give clarity before demand, and that you give recognition before expectation. This is so powerful. It's how you can start to train your team, both psychologically and emotionally, through the day-to-day interactions, that this is a relationship. It's not a transaction. Now, here's where so many managers mess this up. They think that reciprocity means being nice. You don't have to be soft, and it's not about being soft. It's about being strategic, that you can be generous and still really hold people accountable. It's the idea of warmth and standards that we've talked about. You can raise your standards as high as you want, but you must raise your warmth to match that. And as you do those two things, what you end up doing is the way that you interact by inducing reciprocation, by being generous, by pouring into your people up front, you earn the right to hold the line, to create the accountability later, especially on demand, under pressure, when it matters most. You're saving for a rainy day. You're digging a well before you're thirsty. You're being strategic in saying, I'm going to invest in these relationships. I'm going to be generous up front. So when the time comes to hold accountable, when I need a demand, there's something in the bank account I can withdraw. So now let me share with you a framework that can absolutely dial this in for you. I call it the Give First audit. And this is a simple audit you can run silently in your head. You can write it down if that works better for you. But every time before you start a meeting, before you do a one-on-one coaching session, whether in your home life or your professional life, you find yourself in a relationship, in a situation, you're struggling with a spouse, you're struggling with a child, I want you to ask these 3 questions. If you find yourself ready to have a coaching conversation or even a difficult conversation with someone, stop and ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, what have I given to this relationship lately? Knowledge, time, attention, feedback, respect, clarity. What have you invested in the relationship? Then question number 2, what are the emotional deposits you've made with them? Are there any? And then number 3, perhaps most importantly, am I trying to make a withdrawal or I haven't earned the right to ask? Those are the 3 questions. You run that audit, that giving audit, and it will absolutely change your level of influence and your ability to connect and then turn that connection into trust, that trust into action, and that action into results. But it starts with you running that audit to check me. What am I doing? Have I been giving sufficiently that I've earned the right to ask? Or are you going straight to power and control and you're asking and demanding because it says manager on my door and not on yours, because that's a dangerous place to be. Because here's the leadership paradox. When people feel like they owe you, then they're going to give to you voluntarily. But when people feel like they're taking, you're guilt tipping, you're demanding, then you often just get the bare minimum. And you know that. Haven't you worked for someone that poured so much into you, you cared so much about them because they cared about you, you would walk through fire for them. Because when people feel like they owe you their best, they tend to give it voluntarily. When you try to demand it from people, then you get something, but it's often done grudgingly. The power of reciprocity is this. It turns obligation into ownership. It turns your push into a pull. And it's not manipulation, it's stewardship, grounded in ethical leadership. And it all begins with one daily decision. I'm going to give first. Give clarity in your expectation, and give time in your morning huddles, and give appreciation in catching your people doing things right. In small little details, catch them doing that, and not wait to the end of the week, the end of the month, or the close of the sale to celebrate them. Look for opportunities to be generous with your praise, with your attention, with your understanding, with your kindness. In other words, induce reciprocation. Because when your culture flows from a current of generosity, your influence as a leader multiplies exponentially. And that's what you're looking for. And here's the payoff. The next time you need to ask for a stretch goal or a Saturday push or coming in on some days off, then the response isn't forced compliance, it's earned loyalty. And that is a non-duplicatable competitive advantage. Now, let's go a little bit deeper. If you find yourself struggling, you have a few questions, go ahead and text influence to the number that you see on the screen. And we're going to send you a form to get a link to our AI execution assistant, where you can ask it any questions about the material all week on how you can get better at influence in your store. Now, let's cross the execution bridge, turn some insight into action. And here's your war room challenge for today. Before you step into the showroom, before you answer that first email, before you send that text, I want you to stop, pause, breathe, and run the Give First audit. Question number one, and I really want you to think about this as you go through. Have I earned the right for a yes? What have I given that earns me a yes? Question number two, have I invested before I've asked? And then question number three, am I trying to collect from an account that I haven't built yet? If the answer is no, it's okay. Just start depositing today. It could be catching someone doing something right, a quick thank you, a text, a note, anything that allows you to help your people feel more seen, heard, and understood. Because here's the truth. Every act of leadership generosity is a seed for future influence. And you're always wanting to build that capital of influence. So when it matters most, you can make the demands that absolutely move the needle and drive execution. So again, text influence to the number that you see on the screen. The invisible force behind every yes, it's simple. Give first. That is how elite leaders and elite operators win trust, drive consistency, and build teams and cultures that run on commitment and not compliance. And if you want the tools to master this kind of influence, frameworks, scripts, and systems that allow you to make this kind of influence almost second nature, then I invite you to check out our Velocity Mastermind, because that's where we help elite leaders turn psychological principles into leadership fire. So for today, at least once while you're at work, run the Give First audit, see what happens. And then when you go home today with someone in your home life, someone that you love, run the Give First audit and go out. And today at work, create some leadership fire. And when you get home tonight, create some love fire using the exact same principles. And I'll see you tomorrow in the Dealership War Room.